everyone. Good afternoon to those of you joining us here on Zoom and to those of you on Facebook Live. Welcome to another episode of The Entrepreneur's Journey. And this is JBDC's feature where we look at, I like to call it, one of Jamaica's rising icons, the entrepreneurs of today and of tomorrow, looking at their journey, looking at their story, looking at their challenges and successes, and hopefully finding in them something that we can relate to as budding entrepreneurs or existing entrepreneurs, something that we can learn from, and something that we can aspire to or be inspired by. This afternoon, I have with me what I think, accurately describe as a serial entrepreneur here. Uh, I'm sure you are going to recognize at least one of these companies that he has started. Let me begin with SMS Communications Limited. That's that company. If you ever get a text message from the bank, yeah, about what you just spent. And there's Blake's Water Store, Paradigm Capital Limited, that's dealing in short-term loan financing and business consulting services. And there is 22 Jerk, where you can get your nice jerk food there on Barbican Road. Now, if you don't recognize him yet, let me introduce to you Stephen Spence, the serial entrepreneur of all these different businesses. Welcome, Stephen.
Hi, welcome. Thank you for the welcome. Thanks.
How are you?
I'm doing well. It's one of those days, but I'm doing well. Thanks.
What kind of days you have? What kind of day you having, Stephen?
Oh, it started from early this morning, but had to run around and do a number of things to get back here to make sure I made it to your appointment for noon. So it's one of those days, and then the day has quite a few other things to get done. So that's it. And as you just mentioned,
not hearing you so clearly. I'm not sure if it's my volume or your.
Just adjusted my volume.
Yes, me too. So let's do this now. All right. So basically, you're saying that the business has started for you. I don't know if it's stopped, but it's
pretty much how the days go. It's pretty much how the days go from Sunday to Sunday.
Especially when you have 4 companies running, right?
I tell you, but one of the key things too, is investing in persons who you trust will be able to take care of things when you're not around or when you're not physically there.
Okay, so today is a typical day in the life of Stephen Spence. How is it that the interruption to business and everything because by COVID-19 affected you? How has this period affected you, and the businesses and so on?
It's bittersweet. And as I said to someone recently, it's also a period or a time to reset and to see how you can do. I think what is going on is just a pause of the economy. I don't believe that the economy was terrible. I believe it's a way for us to, one, protect our people, those who work for ourselves, and then the economy is going to get started back. I must admit, though, that there are companies that it's going to be very difficult for them to get started. Some just start, and then this happens. So it'll be really difficult for them. For us, SMS Communications, we are pretty much one of those essential services because we are able to allow companies to still communicate, not just here in Jamaica, but in the different islands, to communicate with their members. The restaurant for sure did take a hit. We have been open, we have not closed since. We have shortened our days, of course, and we no longer open on a Saturday, but we're still playing to see what happens. Finance company now, that has taken a hit for sure, because one, you can't find the persons who should repay you, and at the same time, you're trying to make sure that you're not being sensitive because a number of persons have lost their jobs or have taken a pay cut. So it's bittersweet. And the water store, I don't know if you noticed, but they have been extremely busy. And I've always tried to make sure I thank them for their service because they work throughout the entire thing. They've not stopped working. We're still open every day, except, and we follow the protocols in terms of what is given out by the government. But they're all functioning. The two that really got a hit is the restaurant, entertainment, and of course, Paradigm Capital.
So those are the two, the Paradigm and the restaurant you're saying are the ones that have been affected the most.
Yes. But as I said,
All
there
right.
are some, both have been open still. We just have cut back.
Okay. So for these, and I'm gonna, it's a little heavy to start with, but how have you been managing the you know, your staff? Like, I'm sure there is a hit to them. This is not business as usual for them, and how has it affected them, and how are you managing that?
No, especially those at the restaurant, the entertainment area. We met with them and we told them exactly what is on. They themselves see what is going on. And we asked a few of them, those who want to hang out with us, to ride the wave with us. A few of them were willing and they stayed. And we're doing our very best to see how we can take care of them because they too have families. They too have bills to take care of. And it would have been easier for us to just close down and wait this thing out. But we wanted to remain open because we want to make sure that we can assist in some way with the staff. And at the same time, make sure we're staying in the eyes of the public to know that we want to follow the protocols, once we obey the orders given, they can still come in. Based on how we've now redesigned the area, they can sit far apart from each other. And something that we push is the delivery. So we are now doing deliveries to persons within the area and outside of the area to an extent. So how we deal with the staff, we just explain to them, they themselves see what's going on. We manage as best as we can to keep them safe and to ensure that they still have something to take home to take care of their families. SMS for sure, it's technology based. So once the technology is running well, we were hit, I must admit, because we had a huge load coming onto the system. To that point, we still have now, just that it has reduced a little bit, but we still have that load of persons sending, and I said it's not just here in Jamaica, they're sending all over. So we didn't expect that spike. These kind of spikes are what we normally would see during the Christmas, New Year, where everybody's sending out messages and all that kind of stuff. So getting this spike now was a little bit tough for us, but we handled it. Of course, the water store, the staff, we do our best to protect them, give them whatever gears they need. We sanitize the areas and for them to follow the protocols as it relates to staff, customers coming in the different stores.
You know, I'd like to quote from Jim Rohn. He said that in the process of living, the winds of circumstance blow us all in an unending flow that touches each of our lives. The major difference is not the circumstances. The major difference is the set of sail. And for him, I'm taking this from the book, the 5 major pieces of the life puzzle. And he was speaking to having a personal philosophy here, and that personal philosophy being the set of the sail. No doubt these times are challenging for everyone. What is there a philosophy that guides you, and what is it if you do have one?
Actually, there is. And for me, it is life is what you make it. That's something I strongly believe in and do. There are variables, there are outside tentacles that might just affect how things happen. But I believe we're always responsible for how we respond, no matter how we feel. So if the economy is what it is, this pandemic is here, how we react to it, I see it as an opportunity, to be honest with you. And there's a group of us, a small group of us, Now is the time we push. Now is the time we try to find opportunities, because once there's a complaint, once there's something wrong going on, it means that there is a solution. And if we can find that, then we do our very best to turn that into business. So the pandemic, as I said, is a bittersweet. But another thing I believe in is everything happens for a reason. Some of us don't figure out what that reason is, some of us do. And for us to do all we can to ensure that we fulfill that.
Is that something that you figured out for in your own situation? Like I don't know if I know the answer to that. Like what's the reason in this case? Everything happens for a reason.
Yeah, there's several reasons, but are we looking for it? I don't think I've figured out everything. I just know that it is a downtime now, and I need to step back at a time to see, can I make some changes? Look at the companies now. Many of them are going online. Possibly if this didn't happen, I'll be sitting down in front of you in a little area being interviewed physically. So it opened the door for other things for us to recreate and redo things or rethink things. Know that we have, if you wish, the time to do so. So yes, we just need to figure out what the options are. I sent an email, I think it was last week, to the transport authority, because there are certain procedures you have to make, like 2-3 trips, 2 to the transport authority and another 2 to the tax administration. But I think it's because of the situation, they have now implemented a system where you can do certain things online, you can pay for certain things online. That take away 1 trip to tax administration. And I have to send them an email thanking them for that, because normally you have to send a bureau there, or you go yourself and wait. And the amount of productive hours being wasted just to wait in line is ridiculous. So it is, yes, a time for us to look at how we do our things and see how better we are able to serve the Jamaican public. But I also have to be mindful of that. Sometimes in certain situations, persons will lose their jobs because now technology will take their space.
So everything happens for a reason, but I'm taking away that it's a deterministic philosophy. Life is what you make. I think we can relate to that. Life is what you make it. So what do you intend to make of the opportunities that have been provided? Specifically, you mentioned that Blake's is doing really well, and SMS is also. Is there any height in the drive, or an increase rather in the drive for that service, demand for that service that you've experienced?
Yeah,
Now?
absolutely. We are currently in the Caribbean, and we're currently 9 islands. And because of this, we just added 2 more islands, because persons start to share what they're doing in terms of companies that we serve in certain islands start to share what they're doing with other islands that they have a satellite branch at. And then that's how so now we're now.
Because you're in 9 islands, right?
Correct, yes. And because of this, we just added 2 more. So that's an opportunity, and we're doing our very best to see how we can market more into those islands. With SMS, more persons are using their cards. And the thing about it is, I started SMS during the downtime when we had a recession. Is at that time I started.
Like 2007, 2008?
Correct, 2007. That's exactly the time I started it. I remember doing asking someone to do a research to see if it is good for me to start. And all the different results in that report said, no, you shouldn't, because one, you're pretty much a telecommunication company, and you were going up against the Digicel, and at the time I think it was named, it wasn't Flow, whatever the name was at that time. I put aside the report and said I'm going ahead, because I was thinking the penetration of phones was increasing in Jamaica. And I'm saying there needs to be something to put on the phones for people to use. And initially, what had happened is we started out by saying, let us, since that Jamaica is a party country, let's see how we can build a database of persons who love to go to parties, and then get the promoters to allow us to send their ads and all that out to phones. So that's how we actually started trying to see how we can promote persons party, because everybody should have a phone. Most persons should have at least one phone. But then, of course, that was a little bit rough for us, because I didn't know at that time when a party is advertised to start at 9 o'clock. I am saying it should start at 9 o'clock. So we will set up our tables and everything to collect persons. And at 11 o'clock, we only see a handful of persons. So at the time when I'm ready to leave, you're talking about Minister 12, we're seeing scores of persons coming in, but I couldn't get it. I couldn't get it. I said, why is we advertise at 9? Why are they coming so late? So I couldn't keep up with being out that late each time. So I had to come up with something else to see how we can get the persons using their mobile phones, or companies utilizing mobile phones. And then that's when I decided to go after companies who have large databases and who would want to communicate with their database, providing that the right security measures are there and confidentiality of their customer numbers. So I started during a time when it was down, the depression. And now that we're having this pandemic, I'm still going hard at it and trying to see how best I can go into other industries during this period.
What is it about you, Stephen, that makes you this oddball, defiant person who decides to go left in the face of everybody going right, or the tide is seeming to go in another direction?
Well, one thing is, if you ever get to know me, I do not like to wait, and I do not like to be the norm. If you're driving on the road and all these cars are passing, white cars, green, silver cars, you won't, because it's common. But if you see this bright color yellow car that's driving, you're gonna notice it, right? Persons notice difference. And if everybody's cutting back or trying to see what happened, what's going to happen, I don't think I should be in that group. I should be looking on what people are missing and to see how best I can go after it. You know, it can't be the norm. It's not in my nature to be just like everybody else.
All right. How early did you start in the entrepreneurial path? What was your first venture?
I don't know if you know of Asham, but I attended Dint Hill High School and Technical High School, but down there in Linstead. And my neighbor at the time, she would do those Asham and then take it to the school and sell at the gate.
Yes, for the people who are too young and don't know, it's peanuts crush out, yes.
Yes,
Crushed peanuts.
So I said, well, just give me a few of them and let me, sell it for you instead of you coming all the way. So that's my first actual venture. And it was becoming so good that I actually had the thought of leaving school, but I said no. My guardians at the time wouldn't allow that. But yes, that from what I can recall, that was the very first thing I started doing. And I just got the bug from them. And growing up, I usually draw what my logo is going to be, because I wanted to have a garage. I wanted to fix vehicles, because I saw there's so many cars on the road, I want to be able to fix. So I had that in my head growing up. But my real one started where at the time I was working at Heart Trust. And I remember my very first real venture started in adulthood. And at the time I was working with Heart Trust, Heart NTA.
Heart, okay, gotcha. Mm-hmm.
Right. And there was a class, I was enrolled in a class, a Cisco program, because I'm into IT business. And I'm gonna cut out a whole lot for time. So we decided to go into.
Even,
Are you seeing me? I think something.
even not, no, I lost your video. I'm hearing you, but I'm not seeing you.
Oh, it's a call coming in that I'm trying to disconnect.
Oh. Okay, so Stevie is using his phone. All right, here we go.
I'm okay now. Okay, great.
Yes,
Right.
you're
So,
back.
right. So I was working at Heart Trust, and that's when the idea came about going into business. And I would like to say this to persons who are going into business is you can't serve two masters. So I was working at Heart, and I was trying to get a company started. You're going to be distracted because you're obligated to.
Yes, that person really wants to reach you.
You're obligated to your company that you're employed to, and you have to make sure that your tasks are done. But at the same time, you're trying to start your own. So something had to give. So I decided to resign and go full time into. At the time, the company was called You Can Tell Communications. It's a group of us. So my advice, I'm going to cut a number of things out. So my advice to persons who are going into business is to, if you're starting it, you want to make sure you're in control. You want to make sure that you have at least 51%. And because these were friends, what I did, I gave everybody, I allowed everybody to have equal share in the business. You do not want to have that because one, decisions are going to be very hard to make. Meetings are going to be too long because you have to give persons their say and to hear it. I couldn't deal with it in terms of trying to make decisions and moving ahead. So I remember I was being interviewed by Ian. I asked, how can I start a company and walk away from it? And that was my very reason. I couldn't.
Can you start a company
and walk away from it?
Stephen, oh, okay.
Right, and walk away from it. But that's what I decided to do. And I walked away to start SMS communication during that downtime globally. And I said, I have to do what I can because I walked away from the company. We were growing at the time. We had several customers. But the thing is, those customers were not signed to Stephen Spence. Even though I was the face of it and I was getting the business, they were signed to the name to the company. So they couldn't come with me. So I had to start all over and sit and pray and hope for them to terminate the contract with that company. Or just wait until it expires, the contract. So we started that. It was rough, I must admit. I was the janitor, the accountant, the bearer, everything I had to be. And because I walked away from that company, the persons that were left behind who had really good expertise, those expertise that I was lacking, I had to study. I had to sit. Sorry about that. I have to learn the skill sets that they had that I didn't have. And that took hours, that took almost, I would call it sleepless nights because I needed to get this done. Because it's the same kind of business, but there were some coding and things that I needed to have for the business to go on. So my advice to them, make sure is that if you're starting a company, you need to have at least 51%. Two, you do not have to be an expert in a particular area to start a business. Some person believe you have to be an expert in a particular area before you can start a business. I knew business, I have an idea of what I wanted to do, and I had the plan. So I went ahead in terms of making sure that SMS started. I remember though, the next thing struggle I had is, and that's why I said earlier, sometimes it's not money persons need. Persons will come to me, because I do mentoring, and they would say they need this amount of money to start a business. Sometimes when you examine their plan or examine what it is they need to do, it's not money they need. They simply just need to use their network or they need to rearrange what they have. But I specifically remember this time I needed money. I needed to purchase service because what I did, I sold things, but I still needed money to get this thing started. I remember going into this financial institution because a lot of ads were out there on TV and in the print media about small business loans. And as I said earlier, I do not like to wait. So I remember going into this institution, and I did see the manager, and they said to give them 5 minutes. That 5 minutes turned into half an hour. And then I said, I don't like to wait. It went on to 45 minutes. And then I ended up leaving because I'm saying, I'm here to see you. Don't seem like you have a meeting. You give me 5 minutes. So I thought maybe it is the culture of that particular branch. So I went to another branch, maybe a couple of days after. But the very same thing. And I'm going to say it, whether or not person believe it's true. At that time, I personally believe maybe the pigmentation of my skin is not what it should have been. Or maybe I didn't carry a particular reason why that happened. So of course, I just decided to do this thing on my own, sell stuff and do what I can, teach myself certain coding until I get started. Another thing in that journey is I remember going after a big contract, still have them. And you know, they were asking for certain things in terms of the whole technology. And no, to be quite honest, I didn't have them, but I told them yes. Because I wanted a contract. I said, yes, I have this. Yes, I can get this done, which really true, I couldn't. And as soon as I left that meeting, I went and I attacked everybody who I could who could give those things or that expertise until eventually I was able to do it and I got the contract. I still have them to this very day. So we don't always have to have all the tools or the right tools before we get started. We just need to know what we want, have a passion for it, and be willing to give up. And that's one of the things. Some of us do not necessarily want to give up the kind of luxury we have, or we don't want to experience certain discomfort. But if we are not willing to give up everything or give our last dollar into starting a business, why should somebody else be willing to support us or to sponsor our venture? We have to be willing to give our last dollar or do the very last thing to see our dreams come true. If not, it makes no sense. No one will believe you enough. So that's SMS. I must admit it's growing. The next thing I mentioned earlier about the pigmentation of the skin. I remember, this is something that can't leave my head. In 2009, I was invited to the Bankers Association to do a presentation because I had submitted something to the secretariat to see how banks can save money. So they eventually invited me. And of course, this was the introduction of the different services that they're doing now, where persons are using a credit card without you even knowing. You know, fraud, credit card fraud and debit card fraud. So, I mean, you could be sitting in your living room having coffee, but somebody in the grill or in the States is using your card and you have absolutely no idea. So the presentation was strictly about the individuals knowing exactly at any time what is happening with their card. So someone doesn't necessarily need to have the physical card to use it. So it was designed where once that card number is used or swiped anywhere, you should automatically in seconds get a message on your phone telling you the value of what's being spent, where, and also a number to call. So that was a presentation. At the end of it, and I left, the coordinator came to me and said they liked the presentation and they're asking me to submit the presentation and their apology and the protocol of everything I have. Of course, you know, I'm not going to do that. And they didn't necessarily like it. So remember I said it's 2009. And the coordinator said they didn't particularly like the fact that I said banks were losing money. But the fact is they were losing a lot of money and they're paying out a lot of money even during that time. So of course, only one bank months after actually decided to give it a shot, and that's a local bank. And just recently saw those. And at that meeting, there were representatives from all the banks at the time there. And again, I don't know if it's because it was me who was presenting it, why I didn't grab onto it immediately, or at least show more interest rather than wanting my documentation. So if we have certain intellectual rights or properties, we need to make sure we guard it and do our very best to keep it, and to be wise in who we share these things with. We sometimes are a little bit naive. I will implore entrepreneurs, those who are going into this life, to be wise, because I didn't necessarily have a mentor, and I made a number of errors. And that's one of the reasons why I'm so strong now in mentoring. If there were certain things that went wrong, certain expenses I had that came up eventually, I probably would not have had it if I was mentored into it. The mentor I can think of is, in 2007, I had won an award, and Dennis O'Brien, who's the owner of Digicel, part of it was to come with him and to see what he does in his boardrooms and that kind of stuff. And then we exchanged emails, phone calls, and that is the only mentoring I can remember that kind of helped me in how I started or continue with SMS. And what I became a member of a group, the Young Entrepreneur Association, and then we met a few guys, and then we decided to have a core group, small of us, where sometimes we meet together. With what's going on with COVID now, I have not been able to do that, but we will meet and pretty much ask each other what's going on in the company and see how we can assist each other. It's like iron sharpening iron, if you will. So mentoring is extremely, extremely important from my point of view when persons want to go into business, maintain their business.
All right. Stephen, you have said quite a bit in the last few minutes. I just want to recap some of it. Primarily because I don't know if it's on my end only, but sometimes I'm listening so sharply to you because the quality of the audio is not excellent on my side. I don't know if it's the same for persons who are in the Zoom meeting as well. You could probably let me know in the chat if you're hearing Stephen clearly. But I just want to do a quick recap. You spoke about ensuring that you commit, as in not being able to serve two masters. The reality is that, okay, so they're saying that the audio isn't that great. But all right, so, right, you can't serve two masters. You need to make sure that you have money, because we often tell them you can't eat out the money out of the business when it's just starting. Whatever the business is earning, especially at the beginning, needs to be turned over into the business for it to keep growing. So there's that challenge. I don't know if you can speak to that specifically, like, do you recommend that you do it for a time, that you give yourself a timeline or a specific milestone to meet to make the transition, so that you don't start to lose integrity in terms of what you're delivering to your employer or what you're delivering to your new venture?
Yes, you have to take calculated risks, to be honest with you, but yes. you have to give yourself a time. We want to hang on to something, but we want to start something. You have to decide. So yes, you have to take calculated risks. If you are able to give your company, because you have to give them your very best that you're employed to. They employ you, and you have to. If you feel like you're unable to do so, then maybe you should try and get an investor to assist and be able to pay certain bills that you have as investment but you can't. You have to make. So you stay for a while. I would advise persons to do that until you believe that you have enough to move. But there's also a thin line, because sometimes we stay so long, we're trying to get everything perfect before we move. We can't. You have to have some level of discomfort.
Yeah.
So yes, take calculated risk. I wouldn't necessarily advise persons to do what I did. I simply wrote a letter and left. Resigned and left. And I walk into a world that I really had no idea. I really had no idea what to do. I just know I want to go into this
You had some,
business.
you had some money in the kitty?
Absolutely no, or not enough credit cards.
Absolutely no.
I borrowed money from friends and paid them back
Yeah,
eventually.
yeah.
But no, there was what I wanted to start with. I had to go around to gather the different resources to get started.
Mhm. And that is the mark of a true entrepreneur, one who is willing to put the bet on themselves. You have to can bet on yourself
Absolutely.
when you that's plain, I think. So, okay. So we have that covered. You can't try ride the fence.
Mhm.
Got it. You mentioned that you don't try to be an expert in everything, even though at the beginning you might need to wear several hats. Leverage your learn to leverage networks as much as is possible to get what you need done.
Yes, yes.
Um, that there's a value in that, and we endorse that because your network is really one of the most valuable resources that you will ever have, and it's not like something that it becomes obsolete. You constantly need to be expanding it and
That's true.
utilizing it and learning how to utilize it. So yeah, got that point. um in the early stages when you don't have the money, sell what you have to buy what you need, right?
Absolutely.
I'm
Yes.
just paraphrasing. I'm paraphrasing. And say yes before you are ready to. That's another bet on yourself kind of position.
Absolutely. That's what I did. It
And,
might not work for everybody, but that's what I did.
mhm. All right. So those are the things that I made note of. And as we continue the conversation, I want to just have us look at what reflect now and tell me in your mind, for somebody who is listening who is thinking about getting into entrepreneurship, especially in a time like this, but they're not sure if they should or they can. What is the what is some kind of litmus test that they can do? Is there any kind of assessment, trait wise, personality wise, that you can say, all right, an entrepreneur to be successful, for someone to be entrepreneurially successful, this is what they need to be. This is who they need to be, not what they need to do, but this is who they need to be, because I think that's more important in the beginning.
Yeah, fearless.
Who
They
is
have
an
to be fearless.
entrepreneur? Yeah, yeah.
They have to be
Fearless.
fearless.
Wow.
Absolutely. Um,
I know.
I remember there was an RFP sent out. I think it was a tax office who wanted it, and the bid was sent out, and who could bid for that would be the telecommunication giants. At the time, it was digital. I think it was called Cable and Wireless at the time, and there was another company called Future, I think. And I said, but this is my field. I know these other companies are huge. I'm still gonna go after it. And of course, I won the bid. And and then I partnered with others to see how I can have this done. So we have to be fearless. We can't see something and want it. Because if we want something, if we want anything that we don't have, it means that we have to do something we have never done to get that, to acquire it. I could tell you how the water stores got started, and usually that
Yes.
would cause somebody not to, because I remember this. I usually go and purchase the water in that 5-gallon bottle. And this particular day, I walked up to have my bottle refilled. I think it's 10 o'clock. They were supposed to open at 10 o'clock a.m. And it was past 10, and the doors were still closed, and there were persons outside waiting to do the very same thing I was. But then the owner came eventually and walked right through the persons, opened the door, went inside, closed the door behind him. And I said, no. Jamaicans deserve better than this. I just took my bottle and walked and left. And immediately, I started to research. I need to know chemists. I need to know what machines, what are the equipment, the costs. I need to, so in answering that question, person, do your research to see if you're able to. Or if you can't, see what results you can get to get started. So I did all of that. And then I remember making a decision, a few decisions I made. I said, one, I'm going to do everything that this owner is doing, but do it better. Two, I'm going to do all the things that this person is not doing. I said, three, I'm going to open every day because people need water every day. Four, I said, I'm going to open before they do, and I'm going to close after they do. I said, I'm going to put my staff into uniform because there are times when you go where you don't know who works there. I said, I'm going to put billboards all over the place. So, because I want it to be different, and I know that persons want clean water to drink and to do, to use in their lives. So I decided to do that. I decided to try and find a location where everybody passes. And I needed to be in a spot where there are a number of communities around because they would drink water. And then when I identified a place and heard the cost for the place, that too was a deterrent because it was in US dollar. And I said, but geez, I don't know what I'm going to do. So I said, okay, I'm going to have to use SMS to fund it. So that is how I actually started the very first, and which is in Ligony. The Ligony area.
That's the waterfall. Is that the waterfall location?
That is correct. Yes, that's the very first location. So those were the things. I said I have to be different. I can't do what this person was doing. I have to do my very best to get the staff to be customer friendly, because that is always a challenge. And then we got started. And then I said, I want to make sure a store like this is in every major town across the island. So yes, even though we're trying to seek other locations here, real estate is a little bit tough these days. So those were the decisions I make. I know nothing about water really, other than to drink it. But I did the research, see how is it I'm able to get what I needed to get started. And within 5 years, we moved from that one location to now 4 locations, and now actively trying to find other locations, and with the hope of even doing franchise. So we can't be fearful because we see a mountain in front of us. We either try and dig through it or go over it.
I love that you said, you kind of brought out a point just now in that story about how the water business started in that it doesn't have to be some crazy innovation that you're going to need in order to be successful at business. It can be something that is quite
yeah, that exists
there already. It exists. Yeah, it's in the market space. But if you can identify a pain point that a value proposition that is not being offered, and then fill it, which is what you basically described. Seeing
right.
that people want more convenience, people want wider access in terms of the time and the location and the operating hours and that kind of thing, and provide it in a higher quality environment,
Absolutely.
a higher service quality environment, and you can actually create something that still
right. So it's like I
stands out.
said, to be different, because one of the things, and I'll go back there, is the quality of the water was on and off where I usually purchase it. And sometimes there are things in my head wondering, am I getting what they say I'm getting? Because I can't see what's going on behind the doors.
What you pay for.
Exactly. So in making that decision and going into the store, water store, is I said, I'm going to give every person who walks into the store an opportunity to see how we are making the water, how we are purifying the water. So every location, we design them in a way that the customer can stand, and there's a huge glass, transparent, and they can see the process. They can literally see the water going through and the different filtration system it goes through. So all the stores are designed that way so people see what is it we're giving them, what is it they're putting into their bodies. That was one of the differences I said I have to do because I do not want to do what the other person was doing.
All right,
And,
Stephen.
the name, somebody asked me, I saw it asked me, person think it's Mr. Blake's. The actual name, the actual name is my son. His name is Blake Spence, and I named it after him.
Right. What defines success? What does success look like for you?
The notion that people have is not the one I share, where success is what they see. Maybe a nice house, cars, and fancy clothes. But success to me is whatever you want to accomplish and have accomplished it. Right? Success is not necessarily what other people think it is. No, someone who wants to get, because the value of different things means different for individuals. I might have a pen and it values the world to me, but the very same pen to somebody else is nothing. So success is you being able to accomplish whatever it is that you want and you have accomplished it. Whether or not someone is
successful?
Go ahead.
My next question is, are you successful?
For me, I am not where I want to be honest. So I have accomplished quite a few things, and I'm being genuine here. I have accomplished quite a few things, but there are many other things that I want to accomplish. And some of them takes time. Some I at times wish I could make a clone of myself so that I can probably move faster, but I can't. But I would say certain things I have accomplished or have been successful in. But there's a point that I'm aiming for. I'm not there yet. And it's not something that is a moving target. It can be caught.
Oh, because I was gonna ask you that. Is it like a moving target? Like, does success have milestones, or is it a vision that you have? You have a grand vision, and when that vision is achieved, then that's it.
It's a vision. I like to see persons accomplishing what they want. That's one thing. Because I'm saying that to say this. We are not necessarily being afforded at times to whether it is the environment we live in or individuals, we're not necessarily able to do what we really want to do, our full potential. And many persons don't realize what that potential is. So that's one of the reasons why I like to mentor. Would you believe that one of the things I wanted to be was an inspirational speaker? I just wanted to be able to inspire persons to move from one point to the next or to the highest point they can possibly get at. So that's something that is still in the back of me, that's where I want to be. No, I might have accomplished several things and looking forward to more, but I was saying to somebody, I think I even wrote it down, that if your success is to have tons of money or cars or building, then that's all you're gonna have. Money and all those things. If you want to change one person and hope that that person changes somebody else and the chain goes on, I think you're accomplishing a lot more. And sometimes it is a success in terms of these physical things that probably allow you to get those things done, because maybe then you have more of an influence for somebody to sit in front of you and listen while you're trying to change them. So am I successful? I have gained a few things, but the road is still long.
It's about impact for you. It's about creating impact for you.
It is.
Okay. A quick question that is just asking you to think a little bit outside of the box. If you were to describe yourself as an animal or a color, what would it be and why?
An animal, the first thing I go with is a
Yes, you can
lion.
be an animal.
The first one,
That is,
yeah,
you know, I
it's a
could have
lion.
guessed.
You could have.
It suits. I saw it. I saw it for
Okay,
you.
okay. And
But
the
tell me
color,
why.
I think a lion is fearless. It's fearless.
Yeah.
Not that they say it's the king of the jungle, but it is fearless. And
Yeah.
many would want to be a lion, but if you're not a lion, you're not. And if I'm going to choose an animal, it would be. The color would be green, and absolutely no political affiliation. It's just green, green, earth. Right. So
Don't
those
even
are the
have to
answers.
explain why green. Why green?
Because it would be between green and earth color brown because I like earth things, but green. And
Sure.
then it probably stuck with me because that's the color the house I was in during basic school. Then when I went to high school and so on, just always seemed to be going in
Huh?
green. So it stuck with me.
What have you had to work the hardest at as a person?
As a person, a trait, being able to accommodate persons. Let me explain. I don't like long meetings. I do not like you're trying to say something and it takes you 6 sentences to say a word that is probably about 11 characters long. So I like when persons get to the point, and once I understand it, we move on. So it's tolerating and being able to, accept what they're saying and being able to move on. I get impatient easily, and I get bored easily.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. How has your entrepreneurial journey changed you as a person or caused you to grow?
One, it's believing I can accomplish everything. It might be cliche, but it is true. As individuals, we can achieve anything because there are things that I think that's how they define faith. It's being sure of something you don't see or don't have. And that is my mindset. If you should tell me I cannot, that's what's going to make me do it. Just tell me I can't do something, and I'm going to get it done. So it gives me that confidence. It gives me that boldness to do any and everything I want. I think of the restaurant when I partnered. I know nothing about food really outside of eating it. But then when I went to the place, I said, no, this needs to be a little bit more than food. So I turned it into an entertainment complex. I just need to find the right persons to take care of the kitchen, the food part. And then with my business sense and others, I'm able to grow it into what I know it's going to be. So yeah, it gives me that confidence to push beyond what I probably think my limitations are.
What's your view on education and its role in entrepreneurship?
It's a must. I'm going to tell you something, it's a must. I did a lot of studying in terms of the areas I know I wasn't versed in. And I recently, actually, I was speaking with my son because he's trying to get into businesses as well, but he's also going to university. So his thing was he wanted to quit school or take a break from school and go into business. But I mean, ultimately, it's going to be his decision. But I said, finish what you
Would
start.
you support him if he did? Would you support him if he
Absolutely.
did?
Absolutely. And he will have to commit to going back to school if he decides to take some time off. But I was explaining to him, education is key. You have to know. You do not necessarily need to have a PhD. I don't have one, and I don't think I'll ever get one because I'm just not interested in it. But if that's your level you want to go, then go for it. If you want to stop at a couple of degrees, then fine. But one thing, and it's too sad because one thing your paper doesn't necessarily dictate where you're going in terms of being successful. And I'll quickly say, I remember hiring a gentleman who, he has more degrees than a thermometer. He's bright. But then he comes into the company and he's almost dictating what needs to be done. I said, no, you need to do the way I want it. It didn't last really, I don't think it lasted more than a month. So, but he's bright. But I'm also saying at the same time, you have to have a particular level of education. Know what you're getting into so that no one can't necessarily trick you if you're able to decipher what's going on and make certain decisions based on evidence, based on what you want. But education is something that you have to get it done. I believe if Jamaica was more educated, the cohort of poor would not be what it is.
So we have like 3 minutes left. I wanted to just check in with the guys in the Zoom if they have any questions they wanted to throw at you before we wrap up. If you do, just indicate, how to raise your hands. I think you just go to chat and there is a thing you can click on to say, to raise your hand and I can unmute you. Anyone? Going once, going twice. All right, because we can go. Oh, there's one. Hi, Ryan, man, or Rust. Hi, good afternoon. What are the requirements of opening? Okay. Requirements of opening a dental lab. All right, I think Ryan would have to take you in a consult for that one. I don't think Stephen can answer that. All right, your prime minister for a week. What would you change? What would you be known for? That's for you. That's me asking you.
That's you.
That's me asking you, no, Steven. Prime Minister for a week. You don't have way for time. What you gonna do?
To be honest with you, I would spend a lot of time going after making sure persons have land, because there's a number of land out there that have no say that's theirs. That's something I believe if we can afford to allow persons to have their own properties, things will be changing. That's something I certainly would go after.
Okay, that's a good one. It's about equity, creating equity and parity.
Yes,
equity
absolutely.
And parity. It's so. I'm sorry we don't have time to get into this, but Mohammed Yunus, the guy who did the Grameen Bank, he speaks a lot about this kind of thing, reducing poverty and that kind of thing. And he said, we are all entrepreneurs. Do you agree with that? We're all entrepreneurs. I think he said something like,
it's how you define it. It's how you define it, because I'm going to quickly say this. We hear about the success stories of these entrepreneurs, but we're not hearing about the hundreds and thousands of millions who actually tried and failed. So we highlight those who have been successful, the Gates, the Apple, those things, but there are thousands more who tried what they did and failed. So we all cannot be entrepreneurs. Or there are two types. We have the entrepreneur and the intrapreneur. The intrapreneur are those who actually work for somebody, but is extremely good at what they do. And of course, you have the entrepreneur who goes out and gets stuff done. So I guess you can look at it that way. You have the intrapreneurs and the entrepreneurs. And in that sense, then yes, we all have some level of preneur, if you will. The entrepreneur and the entrepreneur.
Some amount of agency.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So I think that, but I don't see any other questions coming in. And I think that's about as much time we have to talk for this afternoon. So I am just going to say thank you so much, Stephen, for having this very lively conversation with us today. And I certainly benefited a lot from what you had to share. The things that we talked about and recapped earlier, and even just you being so very personal about your beliefs and how it is that you have taken on this entrepreneurial path with a strong appetite for risk and a game changing, very determined, I can type of perspective. It's not for everybody, but I think that's what makes you unique, and that you are quite comfortable with being an individual and defining and creating what it is that you see and you desire. And I'm hoping that even though you say you're aspiring to be an inspirational speaker and you don't think it is actually actualized as yet, I think that was inspiring, because and I hope that it was found to be inspiring by those who were listening or who may listen when we put this out into forever land on the internet, that you can be who it is that you want to be in spite of. It is quite within your right and power to do so. So thank you. I hope
Sure.
you enjoyed your time with us.
I did
and
actually. And you're correct, the time moves.
I know, right? She's like, an hour, that's a long time. And I say, yeah, you're going to fly off really
Yes.
fast. Happens
Yes.
all the time. So you enjoy the rest of your day. And for you guys who are here with us, thank you so much for participating and for listening, keeping us company. And you can always go back to the recording of this session, as it's going to be posted on all of JBDC's social media platforms. That's on YouTube. And I think we're also on Facebook Live right now. So there'll also be access through that platform. So you can tell your friends about it, tell anybody who you think may benefit from having listening to the entrepreneur's journey. And of course, stay tuned for when we come again next time with our next Jamaican icon on the entrepreneur's journey. Take care.
All right. Bye bye.
All right.